When Dolores Huerta and I met earlier today, I shared with her the overwhelming response we received to the invitation to honor her today at lunch. More than Eva Longoria, the desperate housewife. She didn't believe me, but it's true, Dolores. Good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to the final Latino Leaders Luncheon series of 2008, and the first since the election of the 44th President of the United States, Barack Obama. I am Mickey Ibarra, founder and chairman of the Latino Leaders Network, host of today's event. Thank you. Today we gather to honor an outstanding Latina leader, truly an American icon, the mother of 11 children, and along with Cesar Chávez, founder of the United Farm Workers of America. Please join me in welcoming Dolores Huerta to our nation's capital. We begin our program with a prayer offered by the Reverend Francis Canham of St. David's Episcopal Church in Northwest Washington. Reverend.
Let us pray. Gracious God, we offer thanks for all that you provide for us. As we honor Dolores today for her long and distinguished service, we also give thanks for the Latino Leaders Network and for all who work on behalf of the Latino community here in DC and across the USA. We pray your blessing on the feast we are about to enjoy. Bless the hearts that have provided it, the hands that have prepared it, and of those who will serve it, and the wills of those who are about to share it in fellowship. Keep us ever mindful of the needs of others, and make us more responsive to those needs, this day and every day. Amen.
Four years ago, the Latino Leaders Luncheon Series was launched honoring then Congressman Bob Menendez of New Jersey. Now, 34 events later, including very successful events conducted this summer in both Denver and Minneapolis during the political conventions, over 5,500 guests have gathered together with us. Today, we continue our pursuit of our mission to bring leaders together. Please direct your attention to the screens for a short overview of the Latino Leaders Network produced by Three Roads Communications.
Leadership, that indescribable but recognizable combination of vision, charisma, and courage. Now, there's a forum that honors leaders of the fastest growing segment of the American population, the Latino Leaders Network. Founded by Mickey Ibarra in 2004, the Latino Leaders Network recognizes Latino achievement in the fields of public service, media and entertainment, sports, and more, with 3 signature events: the Latino Leaders Luncheon Series, the Latino Mayors Tribute, and the Latino Issue Hour.
The Latino Leaders Luncheon series really is intended to provide a platform for our leaders to share their personal story of obstacles overcome to achieve success, as a great reminder to all of our leadership community of their responsibility to be helpful to each other so we all can succeed.
But the Latino Leaders Network does more than recognize achievement. Through these regularly scheduled events, it also provides bipartisan networking opportunities for Latinos to forge new relationships, to listen to each other, and to address issues that are important to the Latino community.
So that when it comes to education, to building economies, to ensuring that people have adequate housing, to delivery of health care, to our position relative to other countries around the world, to national security, to the environment, we're all burdened with providing the leadership in the public conversation, in the public square, about the direction of the American Republic. It's very exciting.
The Latino Leaders Network provides a respected forum to share ideas, inspiration, and solutions. And Latinos on the Hill is the first ever congressional directory highlighting Latinos serving members of Congress and the American people. As the Latino population continues to expand in the United States, the Latino Leaders Network will serve as a catalyst for leaders of the future.
If there's one thing that I would like for Latino youth to take away from the Latino Leaders Network, it would be to persevere, never give up, and always keep your community first. And that's one of the things that I think is important about the Latino Leaders Network, to show who our leaders are, so that we can in turn inspire our Latino youth and our community.
Leadership. It's vitally important to keep America strong, secure, and growing. Leadership. It's recognizable when you see it. Leadership. It's alive, well, and growing with the Latino Leaders Network.
But as leaders, we need to make a commitment to each other. We need to be better to each other. Others may try to tear us down. We need to build each other up. That's what the Latino Leaders Network is all about.
Today's event is made possible by Anheuser-Busch and ServiceMaster Company. We thank these corporate sponsors for their support of the Latino community. Before we hear from our sponsors, however, I want to recognize a few special guests with us today. Now remember, our mission is to bring leaders together. First, we're so pleased to welcome Congressman Rául Grijalva of Arizona. Congressman. And also Congresswoman Hilda Solis of Los Angeles. Also Delegate Jocelyn Pena-Melnick of the Maryland Assembly. Jocelyn. I see the Honorable Walter Tejada of the Arlington County Board. Also, Mayor Adam Ortiz of Edmonston, Maryland. Mayor. And we have a judge in the house. Judge Juan Vasquez of the United States Tax Court. Judge. Somebody's phone's going off. There's a special recognition that I'd like to make also, and a thank you. For those in the room that have had the privilege of serving a President of the United States, in whatever capacity, the White House, department, or agency, understand the public service that is required, the long hours, the pressure. I described it as like trying to take a drink from a fire hydrant nearly every day. And we have a terrific public servant, a person that has served with honor and distinction. And I want to thank Yvette Fernandez from the White House Office of Public Liaison, who is our link to the White House currently and will remain so till exactly noon on January 20th. Yvette, please. Other leaders with us that we're so pleased to have here. The new National Education Association Vice President, Lily Eskelson. Lily? Ron Blackburn Moreno of Aspida, President and CEO. Alma Morales Riojas of MANA. I also see Maria Teresa Peterson, the Executive Director of Voto Latino. Cristina Caballero, the Dialogue on Diversity President. Cristina. And one of my very favorite people in Washington, His Excellency, the Ambassador from Mexico, Arturo Sarucán. We also have with us Tom Perez, the Secretary of Labor for the state of Maryland. Rafael Fantausi, the National Puerto Rican Coalition President, I believe is with us also. There we go. Also, Jose Antonio Tiarino from the Hispanic Heritage Foundation. Dr. Elena Rijos, National Hispanic Medical Association President. I also see Brent Wilkes, the LULAC National Executive Director. Brent. And also John Tresvenia, the President and General Counsel of MALDEF. Finally, I also want to acknowledge a very special friend and an important leader in our community. From the Obama transition team, Frank Sanchez. Frank? Frank Sanchez may be one of the most popular men in Washington today. And now a word from our sponsors. First, Margarita Flores was unable to join us today, but I want to thank her and Anheuser-Busch for their support of the Latino Leaders Network through 2008. She and Jesus Rangel, who has recently retired from Anheuser-Busch, are wonderful friends of our community. I'm delighted also to welcome a new sponsor of the Latino Leaders Network today, the Service Master Company, a Fortune 500 corporation with over 60,000 employees. Kevin Richardson, outside counsel to Service Master for Government Affairs, will present sponsor remarks. Please welcome Kevin.
Since I stand between all of you and lunch, I will keep this mercifully brief. I am genuinely pleased and honored to be here today on behalf of the Service Master family of brands. Our company includes a lot of brands well known to Americans, including Terminex in pest and termite control, True Green in commercial land care and in lawn care, Merry Maids, a franchise business, Service Master Clean, janitorial and disaster restoration, and American Home Shield, a home warranty business. So we touch consumers every day. We touch consumers in every walk of life and in every community. And so reaching out and becoming a part of the Latino Leaders Network has been a great honor for us. And we are particularly honored to support an event honoring Dolores Huerta because Service Master has three corporate objectives. The first two really are reflective of a support for her life's work and her life's mission. Number one is we honor God in all we do, that we try to live a life worthy of service. Number two is our second corporate objective is to help people develop. And I think as a result of that, it's particularly appropriate for us to be here honoring her and her life of service, which I believe, given our corporate objectives, is a great model for all of us to use going forward. So thank you, Mickey, for being here and for letting us be a part of this, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
That was terrific, Kevin. Thank you very much. Also, our pre-luncheon reception, a new sponsor to the Latino Leaders Network, Geico. And from Geico, I want to acknowledge and thank Rinthia Ross Buccini, the Vice President of Public Affairs. Rinthia, please stand and receive our thanks. At each luncheon, we reserve a 3-minute segment of our program to learn more about a Latino organization that's doing good in our community. The Labor Council for Latin American Advancement certainly qualifies, and Dr. Lemus is the first woman to be selected as the executive director. She also serves as the vice chair of the National Hispanic Leadership Agenda. Please welcome Dr. Gabriela Lemus for remarks.
Thank you so much. You have no idea what an honor it is to be here before you. I feel like I grew up in front of you. And especially with Dolores Huerta, she's not only the mother of 11 children, I feel like she's the mother of our labor movement. She's been here. She's always been in support of LACLA. LACLA this year was our 35th year anniversary. For those of you who do not know about us, we represent approximately 1.8 million Hispanic trade unionists throughout the United States and in Puerto Rico. Our mission is one to empower, just as every other civil rights group, socially, economically, and politically our community. But specifically, we're here to work with working families and Latino laborers. And as you know, right now, things are not doing so well for us, but it's going to improve, we know that well. There are so many of you here that I just, I don't even know what to say. I see all my friends. This is great. One other thing that we did that I think you should know about is that every single one of our members actually hits the ground running during a political cycle. They not only vote, they work on education, they register voters, they do GOTV, get out the vote, and something that's really critical to the Latino community, which is voter protection. We just ran a program in Northern Virginia that was spectacular. In 8 precincts, we had members there throughout the voting cycle of the day, 6 a.m. till 8 p.m., and it was quite an impressive moment. A lot of our friends, like Brent, was out there with us in the cold and the rain, putting it out, you know, making sure that Latinos could vote. And what's beautiful about this issue is that we not only helped them with translation, we helped the handicapped, we helped the elderly, so that everyone's vote would have an opportunity to be counted. And that is the critical work that we do. We promote the Latino community in every which way possible, and we join together even when there is bias or problems, because we believe in the future of the labor movement and of Hispanics in the labor movement. So I thank you, and I honor you, and I'm so ever grateful to Dolores for being here with us, and it's such an honor to have you. Thank you.
Our main course will now be served by the excellent team here at the Capitol Hilton Hotel. By the way, Cliff and this team has become part of our Latino Leaders Network family. Please give them a round of applause for the great work that they do for us. I'd like to start by recognizing another leader in our audience that has arrived, Milton Rosado, president of LACLA. Milton, would you please... The Latino Leaders Network has established media partnerships in both Spanish and English for 2008 to include the Hispanic Communications Network, El Tiempo Latino newspaper, a Washington Post publication, and the Latino Leaders magazine. We thank our media partners for helping us extend the reach of this event to our community. Born and raised in Tucson, Arizona, the Honorable Rául Grijalva is a tenacious advocate for education, employee rights, the environment, and the Latino community. A member of the Natural Resources Committee, Congressman Grijalva is chairman of the National Parks, Forests, and Public Lands Subcommittee. He is also vice chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. Please welcome Chairman Grijalva for the introduction of our keynote speaker.
Thank you very much, Mickey, and let me tell you how glad I am to be here with the network, with my friend and esteemed colleague, Hilda Solis, and of course, having the very uncomfortable and unpleasant responsibility of introducing Dolores Huerta. I asked her, is there anything in particular you'd like me to mention? And she said, yeah, tell him I was arrested 20 times for the right reasons and the good reasons. And as I said, it's difficult, if not impossible. How do you introduce a person who's had a life like she's had, who has been a presence in our involvement in our community, who has been an influence individually and collectively to our community? It's difficult to introduce a person. And it's also, and to have a living legacy and the energy that constantly reminds us of how far we've come, but at the same time insists that we not forget that we have a ways to travel as well. I've learned a lot from Dolores. Her and she and Hilda were one of the first people to support me when I ran for Congress, so they either get some significant credit or a certain dose of blame as we go along. But what did I learn from Dolores? I learned about respect, that no matter who you are, what station of life, where you come from, what language your parents speak, what the color of your skin is, how poor or not poor you are, that everyone merits to be treated with the same level and degree of respect. I learned that. And if anything, a great lesson that all of us need to remind ourselves that Dolores brought to us was persistence. Que sí se puede y no los vamos a dejar, over and over and over again. And that persistence has spelled for many of us and provided to many of us the opportunities that we now enjoy. Fortitude, courage, and fairness, that men, women, poor, young, old, all deserve the fairness that our society and this country has and the values that it lives by. We just finished a historic election, and the Latino community played a role, a significant role, in the election of President Obama. We should be proud of that role. We should embrace that role. But let me, in introducing Dolores, tell you that the roots for this victory was set decades ago. And Dolores has been sowing those seeds of change and leadership for decades. We have much to do in the future, but we should all be glad that we will have each other to walk shoulder and shoulder on as we pursue that change for our community. And one place will be taken prominently as we walk forward, and that will be by Dolores Huerta, who has led us to this point, who has been a presence, and the role that we play now, the Latino community as men and women, in our change will be determined from what we learned, the leadership that has been before us, and the leadership that continues to emerge. I want to thank you and thank Mickey and the network for the opportunity to introduce a dear friend. As impossible as it is, when one admires someone so much, it is impossible. When one thinks of that person not as a living icon, but as a presence that influences all of us, it's difficult. With that difficulty aside, let me introduce to you one of the leaders in this country that has set in motion and continues to move forward the change that we embraced in this election and the change that our community desperately needs. With that, let me introduce Dolores Huerta.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for that beautiful introduction. Rául Grijalva, he is such a great model for what we need in a representative. And as you all know, in Tucson, he is like the man, definitely the man, you know. And I also want to thank Hilda Solis, my very, very dear friend, for taking time. I know they're very, very busy in the Congress right now. So Hilda, thank you very much for taking time to be here with us. And of course, let's all thank Mickey Ibarra for bringing us all together. A big old hand for Mickey. And also for the sponsors of this event and that continue to support this Latino Leadership Network, because it is such an important organization. And what a great, fantastic idea. This is something that we definitely need to do. We need a caucus. We need to come together so that we can work together on some of the issues that are really confronting us right now. And again, thanks for honoring me. This is so great, and for letting me sharing this wonderful time with you. I have been, as you all aware, been involved in activism for over 50 years. And I guess even going back to when I was a kid, when I was 8 years old and got involved in the Girl Scouts, you know? And I was a Girl Scout from the time I was 8 till the time I was 18. And by the way, do you know that about 40% of the women in the Congress were former Girl Scouts? So this is another organization that we really have to support. And I am from New Mexico, like my good friend here, Mr. Rudy Becerra from Coca-Cola. Somos manitos. The manitos in the crowd. And my family, my dad was actually a volunteer for the Mine Workers Union. His name was Juan Fernandez. And he was such an avid union man that when he was elected to the State Assembly of New Mexico, he shortly after his election got expelled because he punched out a fellow assembly member, Jose Montoya, from New Mexico, because Jose Montoya made a derogatory remark about mine workers, and so my dad took it upon himself to take him out right then and there. So my dad was a really, really strong union person, although unfortunately I was not raised with my father because my mother left my dad. She divorced him. My dad was too macho, and my mother said, I'm not going to take that, so she left. And she took us to California, where I was raised in a town called Stockton, California. My mother was a businesswoman. She was an entrepreneur. She was a small businesswoman, very, very smart person, way, way ahead of her time. She was very much of a feminist and very involved in the community. So I was very fortunate that I had these kinds of role models in my mother and my dad, in terms of my upbringing. So when I had the opportunity to join an organization that was then starting in Stockton called the Community Service Organization. By the way, they're celebrating, that organization is having a celebration this weekend, and said, I'm not there, I'm here with you instead. But this is the organization that both Cesar Chávez and I came out of. And when we think of the organizations in the Latino community, for some of you young folk, I know some of us older folk know the history, but you know, the first Latino organizations were the honorificas, the mutual funeral societies where people got together if somebody died, they paid their funeral, and then they would also celebrate the 15 de septiembre and the independence holidays, Cinco de Mayo, etc. And then, of course, we had the veterans groups, and one of the oldest ones, of course, is with us here today, and that's LULAC, right? These are the veteranos that came back from World War II, and they're still here today, working on behalf of our community and also the GI Forum. But the organization that became the first mass-based organization to really get out there and get thousands of people involved, Latinos involved, was the Community Service Organization. And the person who organized that organization, I call him the padrino of the Latino movement, was a man named Fred Ross Sr. This guy was such a great organizer, nobody knows who he is, right? That's how great he was. And someday, more of his history will be taught to all of us. But he is the one that got Cesar Chávez involved in organizing, myself, Dolores Huerta, Cruz Reynoso, who, as you know, was the Supreme Court Justice of California, Herman Gallegos, and many, many others that came out of Fred Ross. That's what an organizer does. You go into a community, and you find the leadership there, and then you get them involved. And so that man, Fred Ross, was responsible for so much of what we did. And it was interesting. Some of the issues that we fought in CSO really had, they were issues that today still have an effect. I'll tell you what some of those were. We got rid of the citizenship requirements, because before, unless you were a U.S. citizen, you could not get any kind of public assistance. So that was one of the first issues that we took on, and we won. You know, we were able to get driver's licenses in the Spanish language. Before, you couldn't get a driver's license unless you spoke English. We got the ballots in Spanish. These are things that we still have today. We kind of take them for granted, right? We got disability insurance for farm workers. We got the right to register people door to door, because before that, you couldn't do that. You know, you had to go down to the county courthouse and take an oath. So all of these were really groundbreaking achievements that came out of the Community Service Organization. And then, of course, Cesar and I left that organization to form the Farm Workers Union. But interestingly, you know, what goes around comes around, and sometimes Back to the Future. One of the big issues, too, that we fought then was to get rid of the Bracero program. This was a foreign worker program called Public Law 78 that brought millions of people from Mexico into the United States, and they were very mistreated. You know, I remember les decían, aquí no hay 4 de julio, aquí no hay 16 de septiembre. You came here to work, and we expect you to work, and don't expect any holidays, right? And people were very, very mistreated. So, but right after we got that program stopped, our government in our United States of America legalized over 500,000 ex-braceros without any legislation. There was no law passed. It just kind of happened. It just sort of happened, right? So Cesar and I got involved, and we were making, papers for all these people to be able to come into the United States. And then they were saying, well, they couldn't bring in the wives and the families. So I flew to Washington, met with the Deputy Secretary of State, and we changed that regulation. So not only could the ex-braceros come in, but they could bring their wives and their children. So that was a really fantastic thing. That happened back in 1964. And of course, we used that to help us organize the Farm Workers Union. And the reason I say, look what's happening today, because now in California, while the rest of us are fighting for legalization, they now have guest workers in California. They have over 1,000 foreign workers in Salinas. They have foreign workers in Sacramento, foreign workers in Calexico, and foreign workers in Yuma, Arizona. So, and this comes at the top of the hundreds of thousands of deportations that they have had, where they have split up families, these terrible anguished conditions that so many families have gone through, where they have taken away the parents and left the children behind. Where we're doing my community organizing with my foundation, the Dolores Huerta Foundation, we had a young man who committed suicide because they deported his mother. And these are such atrocities that our government is doing. So it's almost like the message is here: we want your work, okay? We want your contributions to our economy, but we don't want you to be here, we don't want you to live here, we don't want you to be residents, we don't want you to be citizens, you know? So this, you know, even though we have been we're celebrating our great achievements in this election, we can see that institutionally, we still have a long way to go. We still have a long way to go. And yes, on May the 1st of 2006, we had millions of people marching for legalization against the Sensenbrenner bill, right? We had millions that were marching. And yet we know that we couldn't get a bill passed in the Congress. And we have the deportations that happened right on the heels of what was going on. So that shows that even though we showed that we cared, that we participate in the democracy, that we still have a long way to go. And I think that's something that we really have to reflect on. We know that 187 in California, when they try to take away citizenship from people whose children whose parents were not citizens, that was part of 187, and a lot of the stuff that was 187 was in the Sensenbrenner bill, and that really helped California come together. And so we had this little revolution in California where we were able to get Antonio Viragosa, right, as the mayor of Los Angeles, and we have, it's almost 40 now Latinos in our state legislature in California. And with Sensenbrenner bill, I think did the same thing for us nationally. It brought us Latinos together, and gave us this common cause that we have to work for to get another legalization bill. But in order to do that, we're going to have to do so much work. We're going to have to do so much work. And it's not just enough to come out there and march again, like we did on May 1st of 2006, which, by the way, you know, we should think about that march, because that was the largest number of people on the street on one issue in the history of the United States of America. You know, that is how momentous that was. And so a lot of us are thinking, and I know because I've been getting a lot of questions from all over the country as I travel around, and people say, oh, wow, now we got Obama elected, and now we're going to get legalization. Wait a minute, okay? We know that Obama's going to do great and wonderful things, but he doesn't have that magic wand, you know? We know that the only way that we're going to get legalization is that all of us have to work very, very hard. And we've got to start focusing, especially on those Congress people that we need to educate, and on those senators that we need to educate, so that we can at least get a bill on his desk. And I don't even think we should ask Obama to do anything on legalization until we do the work that we need to do in our communities. We saw this phenomenon in this last election where young people left their homes in California, and they went to Pennsylvania, and they went to Colorado, and they went to North Carolina. Well, we've got to do something like that. We've got to do something like that. We've got to get young people and us older folk, you know, to do the same thing and go out there to some of these congressional places, because we've got to educate the public. We've got to make them understand that what we're asking for the people that are here, the undocumented people that are here, it's not anything different than what has always been in our country. Because every single person that is in this country, their people came from somewhere. Their people were legalized, right, at some point or the other. So no, it's not a diferente. This has always been the policy of the United States of America. So we're not asking for anything different than what has always been. In fact, if we go back to the 1920s, there were more immigrants in the United States at that point in time than there were citizens. And there were many immigrants that had the right to vote. They had the right to vote in this country, even though they were not U.S. citizens. So sometimes we kind of forget that history. The other thing that we have to educate the American public on is that a lot of this anti-immigrant hysteria, where is it coming from? It's coming from the same white supremacist organizations that were supporting Jim Crow and segregation, that wanted to keep African Americans from voting in the South. This is who these people are, you know? So if you kind of look at the family tree, the Fair Immigration Reform people, Where do they all of? If you follow that family tree, this is who these people are. But they have been very successful because they've gone all around the country, and they've gone around and they've promoted all of these laws to stop, any kind of justice for immigrants. So we've got to do the same thing. We've got to go out there and we've got to educate the American public, let them know that these undocumented people that are here, what are they doing? They are taking care of our children, taking care of our elderly, our disabled, cooking our food, picking our food, the food that we just ate right now, came from some hands of undocumented workers somewhere. And they're cleaning our buildings and building our buildings, so they are contributing to the economy with their taxes, to Social Security. They're never going to see that money that they've contributed, right? We've got to educate the public who these people are so that they can understand that they are not criminals, that they are workers, and so that we can start getting that sympathy and letting them know who the opponents are. The other thing I want to just ask is, because you are the leaders here, while we continue doing our work on immigration, we've also got to look at the other issues that are going to be affecting our community. And some of those issues, we know that we have the same issues as the rest of the American public in terms of health issues, national health care, the education issue, instead of our money going to prisons, let's put some of that money into education. In the San Joaquin Valley of California, they have only built one university since 1965, University of California, Merced. They have built 17 prisons. 17 prisons. These are our tax dollars, And then, we also need to talk about some of the issues, too, that affect other people, like the women's organizations. I'm a feminist. I'm a board of the, even though I have 11 children, I'm very strongly for choice, right? I'm very glad for choice. And I like to tell people, when we think about who's attacking the immigrants, it's the same people that are attacking the feminists, right? The issue of choice. It's the same people that are also attacking our gay and lesbian community. And I'm going to share with you when we talk, and leaders out there, I'm going to say to all of you out there that are leaders, this is an issue that we have to stand up on. We have got to take the lead on this issue. We have got to go out there and say we are for human rights, and that includes the human rights of people that are homosexuals. We've got to stand up. We've got to be counted on these issues, And to help us to be able to do that, if you share these words with the folks that you're arguing with, right? This is what I tell people, okay? The right of a woman to choose how many children she wants to have is her right of privacy, her constitutional right. Who you want to live with, fall in love with, and yes, have the right to marry, is your constitutional right and your right of privacy, and nobody should interfere with that right, right? And we can quote the great Mexican president, Benito Juárez, who was the first indigenous president of the Americas. ¿Y qué dijo Benito Juárez? El respeto del derecho al derecho ajeno es la paz, ¿no? El respeto al derecho ajeno es la paz. Respecting other people's rights is peace. Respecting other people's rights is peace. So this is what we have to say. We have to go out there, we have to respect people's rights, and these are human rights that we're talking about. And we've got to get out there. In California, they're blaming the African-American community, and they're blaming the Latino community because a lot of people didn't vote. We know that the priests and the ministers were out there. They were really saying, vote against this Equality Marriage Act, but don't blame us too much, because the problem is that I think the campaign could have done a lot more. I was out in California, they could have done a lot more. But this struggle is not going to end, it's going to continue, and we have to be there as Latino leaders in the forefront of this struggle, because it is a struggle for human rights. So, the other thing, we all of us have been victims of racism. All of us, every one of us, Latinos, have been victims of racism. So we have to fight the racism and the sexism, right? And the homophobia. We've got to be there on all of those issues. And I just like to remind people, and I'm going to throw out this question, because we only have one human race, right? One human race. Where did our human race begin? Somebody tell me. Africa, okay? And what is the name of our human race? Somebody? Homo sapiens, okay, right here in the front, okay? So We only have one human race. We don't have a lot of human races. Nomás tenemos una sola raza humana. And we are Homo sapiens. And yes, our human race began in Africa. This means that we are all Africans of different shades and colors. So we can say to the Minutemensos, to the KKK, and to the Aryan Nation, and all those white supremacists, get over it, you're Africans. Get over it, okay? Get over it. So, just to remind us that we are Africans, okay, I want to just share a word with you. It's from South Africa. It's a Zulu word, and it means the people are coming together to fight for justice. That's what we are all about. We have to be for justice, right? For justice for working people. You know, supporting the Free Choice Act that's going to come up in the Congress. You know, justice for women, justice for gays and lesbians, you know, and of course, justice for our people, the Latino community. So the word is wozani. It's a Zulu word, means we are coming together to fight for justice. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, and I want everybody to shout wozani at the top of your lungs. This is the word, wozani. Can you say that? Okay, and let's shout loud so all the bigots and the racists out there can hear us, okay? Okay, let's go together. We are all Africans of different shades and colors, and we are all fighting for justice. Wozani. 1, 2, 3. Wozani! One more time, pero más recio. Let's shout it so loud that we're going to raise the rafters here. 1, 2, 3. Wozani! All right, and let's say with a couple of vivas. The first one is for our new president. Que viva Obama! Okay, one for Cesar Chavez, just say viva. Que viva Cesar Chavez! Viva! Que viva the Latino leaders! Viva! Okay, can we go out there and do the work that needs to be done to really show our presence as we did in the last election to bring justice to our country? We are the leaders, we need to take the risks, and we need to do the work. ¿Se puede? Sí, se puede. Okay, todos juntos, let's go. Sí se puede, sí se puede, sí se puede, sí se puede. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much.
You're the best. Those we honor with the Nambe Eagle Leadership Award understand their personal responsibility to help others achieve as well. In short, they help us bring leaders together. Dolores, on behalf of the Latino Leaders Network, I am pleased to present you with this Nambe Eagle Leadership Award in recognition of your outstanding service to our community.
Oh, wow.
Nambe, from Nambe, New Mexico. While today we end the 2008 Latino Leaders Luncheon Series, I also want to announce that Verizon Communications and the Coca-Cola Company will co-sponsor this series for 2009. I want to give a special thanks to Rudy Becerra of the Coca-Cola Company who's with us today. Rudy, please. And also to Emilio Gonzalez, who couldn't be with us, but again, a co-sponsor for 2009. We are also pleased to announce a very special event, the first ever pre-inaugural Latino Mayor's Celebration on January 18th, hosted by the Latino Leaders Network at the Willard Hotel. Now, this invitation-only event will be for 300 guests. The United States Conference of Mayors holds its winter meeting each January in Washington. They have scheduled their meeting to coincide with the inauguration right here at this hotel in order that mayors can get a twofer out of the trip. Attend their winter meeting and also the inauguration of the 44th president. And I can tell you, our nation's mayors are thirsty for a new president who cares about cities. So we expect a very large turnout. We're very excited to be able to pull together our nation's mayors, our national organization leaders, as well as members of Congress and Obama appointees. I want to now thank our executive director of the Latino Leaders Network, Michelle Mingus-Moore, right here in the back. And in addition to Michelle, we have several of our board members with us. I'd like them to stand and receive your thanks as well. First, my brother, David Ibarra, from Salt Lake City. And Ruben Alvarez of Phoenix, Arizona. Ruben. And of course, Maria Teresa Peterson, also with us today. We have sponsor material outside of the room. We'd invite you to pass by the display tables and take what interests you. We start on time and we end on time. Dolores Huerta, thank you so much for making the journey from California to be here with us. Thanks once again to Service Master, to Anheuser-Busch, and to Geico. And thanks to all of you for joining us today. We'll see you next time.